Chris,
Heath,
listen to my voice. I'm sorry.
I haven't heard the sound of your voice in weeks now.
True. So you've been missing it, but I have a sore throat right now, so the audience is getting the raspies.
Yeah, exploring a whole new pitch on Mobius Tubes, episode 10.
Oh, we've evolved.
We did it.
You know how in the title it's like Mobius Tubes 00 number because we've just been doing 1 through 9 so far.
Leading zeros, yeah.
You know I did 0010 accidental out of habit, and there's no chance that we're gonna hit a Joe Rogan and do 1,000 episodes. But it was just like, hey, we made it to 10. That's enough to celebrate.
I think it's like doubled our authenticity with this show now.
Assuredly. Now we can have matching jackets and just my mom can be a little proud of me.
Now that we've entered this new era of Mobius Tubes, I'll plug some things right at the start.
Oh.
First of all, listeners, please write to us at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com. We love getting your emails. They make the show very entertaining for us, and I think for you as well.
Leave a review too. Like, you know, the review system on the podcast sharing sites. We need those like 4 and 5 star reviews to get all the sweet listenership. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they really help with algorithmically sorting us on those stores if you leave us a positive review. So if you enjoy the show, please consider doing so. And we've launched a Mobius Tubes Twitter account, so you can follow us and get the latest updates there. You can follow us at Mobius Tubes Pod.
Oh, I follow that. Yeah. That's a good place to submit questions too, right? Or no, that would make things more difficult, right? Because then we'd have to filter them.
I have no problem reading questions there either.
All right,
whatever is most convenient for you, the listener.
Yeah, we'll leave it up to that because I'm certain that you're going to regret saying that if we get like tons of questions and you're having to sift through duplicates on both Twitter and Gmail. But that's what we're willing to do for our fans.
And actually, a correction to the corrections last week, Bandai Namco totally worked on developing Smash Bros. So that's all the logistics out of the way. Heath, let's dive into what we've been playing it's been a couple weeks now, because we're recording to you on February the 23rd, 2019.
True.
I think I'm going to start things off, if that's okay.
I was hoping you would.
All right. I'll set us down a good path here. When I give us my Wargroove update.
Here we go.
Last episode, the only game I brought to the show primarily was Wargroove, this brand new turn-based strategy game from Chucklefish. And I had gotten a good taste last episode, but now I've really dove into it, primarily spending my time with the single-player campaign. I believe there's like 7 acts to this campaign. I'm in Act 6 at the moment, so I'm getting towards the end, have not quite finished it. It is a lengthy affair, which I appreciate. I'm not like on this time crunch to finish it for review or anything, so I'm just dipping in, dipping out when my heart is in it.
Is this like the story mode? You're saying acts, right?
Right. It's the story mode, you could call it, the main single-player campaign. And I've brought a little more to say about it. I have a few minor criticisms that become more apparent to me as I've played more. These are mainly like quality of life things. The first of which is it's a little too easy to accidentally hit end turn during your turn. There's no like...
That's an issue.
It is an issue, and it's one they've publicly announced that they're going to be addressing in its first patch. So this is very much a temporary issue, but went into detail last episode how a game of Wargroove can last an hour plus, and if you're on the back half of your game and you accidentally hit end turn before you've performed most of your unit activations, it could really screw you and end up costing you a game and losing you a lot of time. So that's why that perfect storm of variables makes the easy end turn hit kind of annoying. It has not personally happened to me yet, but I've read horror stories on Reddit of people losing.
Oh, okay. Because I imagine that you're like planning this Machiavellian turn in which you're like sacrificing fronts in order to like manipulate your way to win the battlefield. And there's just a giant glowing end turn button with no like, are you sure you haven't moved yet? The only end turn buttons that come to mind are like the little bar in Civ. And XCOM, what's XCOM's end turn look like? I'm pretty sure it like gives you an "Are you sure?"
I think so. A second click to confirm is pretty common, but it's not here in Wargroove just yet.
Come on, what's this called? The Chuckle Bucket? What's the developer?
Chucklefish.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, come on, guys.
Next up, another small thing. A big part of Wargroove, as I've learned to play better, you have to play defensively, kind of like position your units just outside of the threat range of the enemies so that they can't hit you on your next turn when they take their turn. But you're also like positioning yourself to strike back or like limit the enemy movement without putting them into your own threat range. So it's a lot of checking how far the enemy can move, how far they can shoot, that kind of thing if you want to play well. And the annoying thing is to see the enemy's threat range, you'll move your cursor over the enemy unit and click and hold down, and it'll highlight exactly how far the enemy can move and shoot. The issue is like you have to keep your cursor on the enemy and hold it down the whole time to like view that threat range. You can't just like click and then move around and look freely. You have to like continuously hold down the key. So that's just small things.
I don't think I would prefer it if it was just always on the screen. Like in Civ, when you have like your unit's movement displayed and on top of all the other UI things, like how much food this farm makes, it clutters it up to an unacceptable amount. So I don't think I'd want what you're saying in Wargroove.
Fair enough. So it might just be a personal preference of mine. In that case, maybe like an option in the options menu to toggle it?
Don't toggle it, Chuckle Bucket. You keep it the way it is.
All right, but last but not least, and this one is only an issue as you are learning the game. I'm far enough now that I've internalized most of the rules, which units are effective against which other units, but the game includes this very comprehensive codex, which every time you encounter
like Metal Gear?
Pretty much, it's full of like lore and stats and all sorts of information you may or may not need about every individual unit. But at any time, you can right-click on the guy on the field, and it'll bring up all sorts of useful stats, like a damage matrix of like how effective they are against other units. There's a small like summary that shows this unit is effective against these units and vulnerable to these units, which is tremendously useful when you are learning the game, learning the rock, paper, scissors of who beats who. Now the game it's displayed in this very beautiful, charming pixel art aesthetic.
It's like Pokemon.
And, yeah, very much like a GBA Pokemon. And the issue with this like effective, vulnerable chart is it's very small and there's only like a few pixels representing each unit. It's a portrait of them. And it's tough to distinguish like who is who in this vulnerable effective chart. What I would like to see is maybe because this game is a Switch game, they don't have like the real estate to blow up these portraits and make them bigger so you can more easily tell which units they're actually talking about. But maybe have like a tooltip that you can mouse over and like give you a name of who you're looking at, because half the time I'm not sure what I'm looking at and I have to like dig deeper into the codex to actually see which units are effective against which units.
That being said, quick request that Chucklefish does not pull a Nidhogg with their graphic redesign. So if you know what I'm talking about with Nidhogg? The original Nidhogg game had these charming pixelated boys with swords and it's a fighting game, right? So you're fighting with swords. Nidhogg 2, Messhoff, the game's developer, had enough money, because Nidhogg 1 was a banger, to develop new graphics for the game. And he went with this it's universally panned. It's like Simpsonian monster people, and the whole community that was digging Nidhogg 1 saw Nidhogg 2 and was like, ugh, I hope the gameplay is good. So Chucklefish, don't listen to Chris. It might be hard to distinguish between one pixel from another, but whatever you do, don't pull a mess off and make all of these pikemen and knights these grotesque, like, Simpson wave. Have you Google Nidhogg 2 and help me describe?
I'm well aware of what you're talking about.
Okay, good.
It's funny. The sequel, it is like universally hated. No one likes the new art style.
No one likes it. It's like,
yeah. Just to be clear,
it's like booger men.
They are like gross, juvenile booger-looking things.
Patch it out.
And just to be clear, like when you're in the game, looking at the battlefield, it's easy to tell units apart. It's only during the specific like codex menu where it's difficult. Okay. So not the biggest deal. Those are small quality of life things I would like to see. But there's so much good to this game. Playing a game of Wargroove is very satisfying and fulfilling. Like so much so that if I get home after work and I dip into a game of Wargroove and I finish a match, I'm like good for the night. I don't like, I'm fully satisfied. I don't need to play anymore. I turn it off, which is unlike Into the Breach where it like incentivizes playing over and over one more round. But that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying Into the Breach is necessarily the more addictive, compelling game. This one is just more, it has a greater arc to it, I would say. So by the time it wraps up, I'm kind of like emotionally spent. I don't want to get fully invested to a second game right away.
Okay.
Which is fine because I'm savoring it. I'm enjoying it over a long period of time. It has the campaign does a good job of introducing like cool campaign scenarios. It's not always just here's your base, here's the enemy base, destroy their base or their commander. You have missions that are like, I would say escort mission, but escort missions are usually hated. It's more like you have a small band of heroes that are walking along this long path and you're getting harassed from ambushes as you go. So it's kind of like a survival thing instead of a base versus base scenario. And they have other cool missions where you're like, one half of your force is completely separated from your other half by a river. And there's kind of like this ticking time bomb because on one side of the river, there's a giant who is completely unopposed, and he's making his way slowly towards your stronghold. And if he destroys it, it's game over. On your other side of the river, you have your force, and they're trying to work their way to like this blimp, this air balloon, that will be able to ferry them across the river and hopefully stop this rampaging golem. But there's forces in your way between the blimp and you that you have to defeat, but you have to defeat them in a timely enough manner to get across the river before the golem arrives and destroys your stronghold. There's just fun, creative ways they challenge your Wargroove skills.
Okay, so I imagined when you said that the two groups are divided by a river, I imagined like, oh, can I shoot from one side with my archers? Can I shoot across to hit the guys on the other side? But you're saying it's like, it's not that they're separated, it's just that there's an obstacle.
Yeah, I'd say in the one particular scenario I was referencing, the river is probably wide enough to not make range fire effective. Plus, the golem who is the target, he wasn't like hanging out by the shore. He was too far inland. So range wouldn't have been very effective. You really need to get to that air balloon.
Okay. Save what I said for DLC.
Got it, right, because they do have DLC plans they've announced. That's fun. There's the main missions in this campaign, and there's like offshoots, little side stints that you can do that are not necessary to like progress the story, but they're fun to do nonetheless. And there's this ongoing B subplot of one of your generals is a dog named Caesar. And he constantly, during these like side missions, runs into this group of bandits that are trying to hold up villages and pillage them for gold. And there's always a intro cutscene where the bandits are holding up the villagers and they're like, say, give me your gold. And the villagers, more often than not, don't have any. So then the bandits talk amongst themselves, going like, debating the ethics of capitalism and how it oppresses certain people.
Oh,
and then Caesar,
that's where we go?
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Outstanding.
And yeah, then they start to question their own morality of preying on the weak. And then before anything else really happens, Caesar will arrive and you just play the match. But it's probably where this game's writing shines the most.
Yo, I gotta pick this up, man. I was like, I don't know if Into the Breach, it sounds fun, but this is the writing in this game is grabbing me more so than that. And plus, I still have yet to accept your challenge, 1v1ing you in Wargroove. So,
right, I'm excited for that.
Big excited.
And last but not least, I'll just say a hallmark of these turn-based strategy games is like they have the rock, paper, scissors mechanic, where I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. One unit is more effective against another unit, while that unit is maybe effective against the first unit. So there's this, if you were to draw a graph diagram of unit counters, it would form a circle, a rock, paper, scissors kind of circle. But in Wargroove, they've turned elementary geometry, a triangle, into a quadratic equation because you've got kind of like 3 rock, paper, scissors games going on at once. One taking place against land units, 1 air units, 1 naval units. And then those 3 games of rock, paper, scissors then interact with one another in a meta game of rock, paper, scissors where you can't just spam units that are maybe a bit OP because there are too many hard counters, there are too many variables at play here. You need a balanced army composition to be effective. And then there's other variables in play, such as maybe one unit that is typically a hard counter to another one. You can end up subverting that relationship by using like terrain features to your advantage or setting yourself up for critical hits. So maybe like you can get a knight to be effective against a pikeman, even though most of the time pikemen just shred through knights. They're good against cavalry.
Right.
It's a very rewarding brain teaser to figure out how you're shuffling around your units to be most effective against whatever the enemy force is bringing. I love it so much.
I think I will love it when I touch it, but until then, I'm stuck with the games that I play. Oh, but Heath, you don't play games. Well, can I get into it?
Go for it.
This week, I played a game, and in this age, what would you call this age that we're in, Chris? And I'm pretty sure that it's easy to guess with all of these changes to the genres. Would you say that we are living in the age of a battle royale?
Battle royale is the hotness.
I played the hot, because a hot battle royale game just dropped, right? You
could even say it shadow dropped.
I played the hottest new battle royale game that just came out, Tetris 99.
Oh, you led me astray. Okay.
Heck yeah. I didn't play Apex. Tetris 99 is a battle royale game, but it's Tetris. So you're playing Tetris, and you know what screen peeking is if you're playing like a multiplayer game, or like you could see what the other people are doing.
Specifically like a local multiplayer game, right?
Yes, but this is just Tetris with 99 people, and you can see all of their wells, all of that column that you play Tetris in. It's all on the same screen at once. And
wait, let me get this straight. You can see 99 people's Tetris columns on your screen at once?
Dude, when you hit go and you enter like the matching lobby, you'll see all of them like just appear. It's in a grid, that they'll pop into existence until you have 99, and then it's like, get ready, and then you start playing Tetris. And the only thing that makes it the competitive component, it's not to see who is like the best Tetriser, because like there have been people who've been playing this game for like 20 years that can crush it, but you need to be able to pick your battles. So when you complete a line, you send a line of garbage to your opponent, right? So if you're playing against someone really good and they're completing multiple lines, like if they clear, you know what I mean by clearing a line in Tetris, yours goes away.
Yeah, you like fill up a row, right?
Yes. So when you fill a row, it disappears. It sends that disappeared line as garbage to your opponent. And if you complete 4 lines, that's called a Tetris. That's the most you can complete in one go.
Right.
And if you combo your Tetrises with like clears with every subsequent piece, because you're constantly adding tetraminos, you're just sending more garbage to your opponent. And if they can't make a line clear at the moment that you send the garbage, it will accumulate from the bottom up. So it's just pushing you toward, because when you get to the top, you lose if you Tetris stack exceeds the upper limit.
Right.
So this is just my examples with one opponent. You can have like 3 people targeting you and sending you garbage, and it's that at that moment where like the Tetris god has to be like, oh, I gotta go into big defense and set up, like, and hopefully have set up by this point that you have so many people targeting you, these multi-line clear setups. It's all setups. Whereas in other Tetris games... I have a couple
questions for you.
Okay, yeah, shoot.
Okay, so when you send garbage to your opponent, presumably there's like, at the start, there are 98 opponents. Are you specifically targeting someone who gets your garbage, or does it go to everyone?
So you can just use your cursor. I'm playing this on the Switch. You can use your cursor to just pick a random person on the screen. You could set the targeting system to just randoms, and it will you are always sending garbage to someone as an opponent, I think. You can you could also target your attackers. So if you have like 3 people on you that are like sending garbage, when you complete a line, you send garbage to those 3 people. It's sort of like big defense. And if you're good enough, you will show them that you are not to be trifled with, and they can disengage and go target somebody else, and therefore no longer receive your garbage. You can target the people who are about to get knocked out, and that's essentially how you send garbage to the point that someone gets killed. You earn a badge. And the more badges you have, the faster the game goes. And I think like the more powerful you are. It's this whole give and take of, usually at the beginning of the game, you are targeting, you have your targeter set to KOs. So that means people whose stacks are getting pretty high, and if they take much more, they're donezo. You could also target the people who have badges, so the people who are getting kills. And that's basically like, you think you're good? I'm about to kill you and take your badges and win the game with them. So I've never won yet. I've never gotten a chicken dinner.
Okay. What's the furthest you've made it?
25. And
pretty respectable.
When you hit the 50 players left mark, okay, so this is Tetris. You got the classic music, and then when you hit the 50 people mark, it cranks that music up, and it's so hype. This is my first, I played Fortnite maybe like an hour. This is my first Battle Royale experience. I don't see any downside. They can just slap Battle Royale on any game I like, and I think I'll like it more because I'm playing this game, and sometimes you'll lock eyes with a killer, and you'll have to disengage and be like, ooh, I gotta take out some of these weak guys, these chaff, build up my strength, and so I can fight the true enemy that I just saw. And then sometimes, people will be sending me garbage, and I'll have like killer setups, and I'll be like, "Wait, you think I'm trapped here with you? No, you're trapped in here with me." So I downloaded this game. It's free, by the way. That's what the big deal
Oh,
is.
sweet. Are there any paid microtransactions in the game?
No, you can't do cosmetics because all the colors mean something, and then. Yeah, there's no slow-mo power-ups because you're playing live with 99 people.
Just curious, about how long does a match take, assuming you make it pretty far?
Oh, I mean, less than 3 minutes is the longest I've lasted. And then, oh, darn, you get killed, just hold down A to rematch, and then you're already in a lobby that's like half full. This is the quickest turnaround ever for a Battle Royale game. Sorry, go ahead. I started playing this because Wooly, on the Castle Super Beast podcast, was talking about it, and how, in a game, there's usually like 5 killers, and the rest are just scrubs that are trying to compete. And I might not be super good at Tetris. Clearly, I haven't won yet, but I want to be a killer, so I'm down to keep playing this. It's rewarding enough. What was your question?
I love that you brought this game to talk about. It's funny. I think it's proof that if Battle Royale can be adapted to suit Tetris, nothing is off limits,
yeah,
right?
Dude, friggin' Connect 4, make it Battle Royale. Do anything with it.
Simon Says Battle Royale.
Yeah.
Coming soon, I'm sure. Very cool. I've only heard like a couple things about Tetris 99, so I'm glad you were able to tell me so much more about it.
Well, it just came out, I think.
Is there anything else you want to say about Tetris 99 before I move on to my next game?
Nah, that's all I wanted to say. I'm going to keep doing it because it's so like low investment but high reward. I'm really digging it. What did you play?
So last week we talked at length about Ubisoft's questionable decision to remaster Assassin's Creed 3.
Oh, you didn't go back and play it, did you?
No, but I decided to dip into a game I've been interested in playing for a while now, Assassin's Creed Origins.
Oh, good.
The 2017 Egyptian setting, kind of a reboot of Assassin's Creed after they took off the year 2016 without a mainline entry. And just a very brief recap of my Assassin's Creed history so listeners know where I'm coming from here. My time with Assassin's Creed was brief but intense, I'll put it that way. So way back in the day, Microsoft, in around summertime of 2013, they decided to get on board with like giving away games for free for Xbox Live Gold subscribers. I
am so familiar with this give away.
Right, making their service reach parity with PlayStation Plus. And I think the third game they ever gave away for free with that service is Assassin's Creed 2. And that was my first Assassin's Creed game.
They gave away like Fable and Dead Island.
Yeah, Fable 3, I think.
Well, I bought that game because I thought it would be a fun, like David Cage kind of decision-making game, and it really wasn't. Anyway, Assassin's Creed 2?
Right. So Chris, playing this game in July of 2013, well after it was released, loved it, really liked Ezio, grabbed all the achievements, even the super annoying collect 100 feathers.
Get those
feathers. No one gets
feathers.
that achievement.
No.
There's no indication of how many you have or like where the remaining ones are. So you have to like cross-reference 10 guides on the internet to figure out which feathers you're missing. But I did it. And then over the course of the next 6 months, I went in and completed Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Revelations 3, and then 4 Black Flag.
That's a good run.
Yeah, 5 AC games in 6 months. Loved them. And then what inevitably happened was I burned myself out on the franchise. It didn't help that like Unity and Rogue, which came out in 2014, were kind of like underwhelming. So 5 years go by. I don't touch Assassin's Creed at all during that time. From February 2014 to February 2019 today, and I finally pick up Assassin's Creed Origins, ready to dive back into this franchise that I cared a great deal about, but then kind of lost touch with. And it's set in Egypt. I think the era is like Ptolemaic Egypt. It's around...
I mean, like, it's probably 3000 BC.
Oh, no. This is more like 49 BC.
What?
So not ancient Egypt.
Oh.
This is like more contemporary.
Like friggin' Mark Anthony?
Yeah, like Cleopatra.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I forget that wasn't in 3000 BC.
Right, because
Oops.
like, what's the fun fact that the time of Cleopatra to the time they were building the pyramids is a longer gap from Cleopatra to present day?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, 3000 is when they built them, So
Egypt is old.
Yeah, so this is
the
like
takeaway.
The Library of Alexandria and the big lighthouse.
Yes, you can explore Alexandria, you can explore Memphis. I'm playing on PC. It's beautiful to look at. Just like as an aside, it took me a little more tinkering in the graphics settings to like arrive at performance I was happy with than usual, but I have it sorted now. Nothing like crazy. So it's fairly well optimized. It chugs a little bit when you're in the super populated cities like Alexandria I just mentioned. You star Bayek, a new protagonist, and based on the name, Origins, you can kind of assume this is telling an origin story of how the Assassins organization came to be. It's a pretty standard like revenge tale so far. The story is not what's pulling me through here. The dialogue is kind of video gamey, I'll say. The performances are a bit stilted. They feel a little, what's the word I'm looking for?
Ham-fisted? I heard good things about Bayek.
Bayek himself, he's definitely like a highlight. Unfortunately, more often than not, the people you were having him interact with, they're very much like, this is a video game NPC whose role is to give you this mission. And I'm actually finding myself skipping dialogue once in a while, which I don't usually do in games. But with that out of the way, this is a pretty big departure from the classic Assassin's Creed formula that I grew to know.
You say that. Are you saying that I don't climb up obelisks and do a synchronize off of the Sphinx's nose?
You totally do that,
Oh,
yes.
Then just get off with that.
But between when I was last playing Assassin's Creed games and this one, there were some pretty like influential progress made in terms of open world design. We had Zelda Breath of the Wild and Metal Gear Solid 5 kind of showing how...
This is how you do it.
Right, how you can have a lot of freedom as you tackle a very like mechanical sense of freedom. As you encounter camps or missions, you can like tackle them from any direction and use a bunch of different tools at your disposal to make kind of a very emergent sense of gameplay that is tailored to you and your style. And I'm also getting some like Witcher 3 vibes from this game. Not in the sense of how great The Witcher 3's narrative was, but in the sense of kind of the core gameplay loop you would go through with Witcher in terms of enter a new area, talk to the townsfolk or the bulletin board to get some missions. They provide some context. You then seek out the missions and complete them. And how this is a kind of a... One thing I love about Witcher is side quests can spiral into other side quests. You will go to a mission to like accomplish a certain task, and meet people along the way who have their own side quests for you. Assassin's Creed Origins is kind of singing the same tune. Maybe you could take this as a criticism. It seems like half of the side quests in AC Origins are my friend or loved one has been kidnapped by bandits. Go to the bandit camp and free them. I would say this gets annoying, continuously going to a camp, finding a cage, opening it, and carrying the guy out. But taking down these bandit camps is so much fun that I don't mind it. And what I mean by that is there's like 3 pillars you have in AC Origins for dealing with people. Unsurprisingly, you can take the stealthy route and assassinate people, hiding in bushes, climbing on rooftops, jumping down. Usually, in previous Assassin's Creed games, this is like always an instant kill. It's still usually an instant kill in Origins, but there's a lot more like RPG bleeding into this game. So if a guy is a high enough level, you'll only like take out maybe half his health or so if you're under-leveled for your current mission.
Okay, but still stabbing people from haystacks is like infinite damage.
Yeah, pretty much. So stealth and assassinations is one of your pillars. You have a pretty robust assortment of like ranged options here, more so than any previous game, which is kind of funny because this is a much older setting than the previous games where the future ones have like gunpowder at your disposal, but nope, not so much range happening.
Oh, I hated
at least in the games I
guns
played.
in Brotherhood. Like, I hated how easy it would be to just like shoot, bang, last guy.
In Origins, you have a pretty cool, diverse set of different bows and arrows to use that kind of fill the archetypes of different guns. You have this like warrior bow where you fire 5 arrows at once from it. So it kind of serves as a shotgun. It's a inaccurate but high damage method of killing. You've got your predator bow, which is more like a sniper rifle. You actually go into like a first-person perspective when you're aiming with it. And if you go far enough down the skill tree, you can actually like guide the arrow, which is cool. You've got your submachine gun, which is called the light arrow. You can rapid fire that thing way faster than any human could possibly shoot a bow and arrow.
Sick.
And you've got your hunter bow, which kind of functions how you would assume a bow and arrow does. You pull it back, you shoot it. It's medium range. And that's a lot of fun. And you've got a diverse assortment of melee weapons. Everything from like spears and
Scythes.
cudgels to like that Egyptian curved sword and regular swords and like clubs.
Centaurs.
They are
Or scimitars. I'm not sure.
What I like is that each weapon kind of has its own role. Picking a longer weapon like a spear is good for like crowd control. You're swinging it in a wide arc, you'll hit a bunch of guys at once. While if you have like the dueling blades, they're kind of like daggers. You're going for high DPS, but you're only really hitting one target at a time. So what you pick could really change your playstyle. And it's not just all swinging. You have like defensive capabilities as well. You have your shield with blocking and parrying. You have a dodge, which is useful for getting around shields. And what I like so much is these 3 different pillars I just spent some time describing. You will effortlessly flow between them at a moment's notice. So the combat has some nice like dynamic elements to it. You'll be picking off guys from the bushes at one moment, trying to get some headshots with your arrow to get some guys who are like maybe a bit further out of reach. You'll get spotted. It'll seamlessly transition to melee combat. And you know what the old AC game melee combat was like? The enemies would form this circle around you. One at a time, they'd come up, attack, you'd counter them and kill them. That countering is kind of gone here, and the enemies will swarm you. They're no longer playing like single file one at a time, we'll take our turn. They will bum rush you. With that said, the game hasn't been super challenging so far. Pretty nice balance. I'm playing on normal.
Well, I liked the combat in Revelations a little more. Like, the big enemy types were fun. Like, the Janissaries looked really cool. But definitely had way more fun with Batman than Assassin's Creed when it comes to fighting regular dudes.
In this game, the whole countering aspect of combat plays a much more diminished role. And I was saying how the difficulty is pretty well balanced. I'm playing on normal, which for the first time, in my experience, this is the first AC game with like different difficulty settings. Previously, it was just kind of like one experience, at least out of the games I've played. So I really like the gameplay loop of AC Origins. I'm like 22 to 23 hours in. It's just starting to feel maybe a little bit stale. It's a very big, expansive game. Like there's a lot of content here. It'll be interesting to see how compelled I am to continue playing, how far I'll get through it. It's got me even more interested to check out AC Odyssey. This is a very different direction for Assassin's Creed. Like these games are a lot bigger than they were previously, and I'll be interested to see if Ubisoft keeps pumping these out annually because of the nature of them being like a much longer affair. I'm wondering if people get burned out on them even faster than the old style of Assassin's Creed games, but I guess time will tell. I'll probably check back in next week with more to say.
Good stuff. I mean, if they do get burned out, what are they going to do? Go play Just Dance? Like, I hope there's not really a big Abstergo thing in this one.
Oh yeah, that's still in there.
Great.
Interestingly enough, but it has been the shortest, like least intrusive modern day timeline story I've seen out of any Assassin's Creed I've played so far. I've been popped out of the Animus twice so far, and each time was maybe like 2 minutes each or something.
Okay.
So it's like hardly in there.
Okay, good. This was Origins. Man, Origins, Odyssey. I don't like how they're both O, and they're both like ancient. Wait, Odyssey takes place before Origins.
You're right.
That's
which is
fucking stupid.
surprising.
Change your titles.
I know, right? Origins.
Assassin's
Let's go
Creed,
to
the beginning of time, and then they do Odyssey, and it's like thousands of years before Origins.
I think I've heard
Creed,
that
even more Origin.
I think I heard that in Odyssey there's like no semblance of the Assassin's Order whatsoever. You're just like a mercenary.
Oh my god, I can't believe you release a game called Origins and then make a prequel to that game.
Back to back, no less.
It's astonishing. Yeah. Please come out with like Assassin's Creed, the final chapter. And then next year it's like the last stand. And they just keep going with it. I think Origins is funnier than that. So I got to go back and listen to the Super Best Friend cast. What you said about the subquest where it's like, help, my daughter was kidnapped in this dungeon. That's something that I've heard before, and I gotta go back and listen for the jokes that they made about that.
Yeah, it seems like half the population of Egypt is currently kidnapped and incarcerated against their will.
Great.
At least that's what AC Origins would have you believe.
All right. Any last thoughts?
Do you have another game from your week you would like to talk about?
Nah, man. I did. I should have played Tetris 99 for episode 9, but I didn't. It wasn't even out yet, I don't think.
Got it. Yeah, that would have lined up perfectly. Okay, then I have one last thing to talk about. So I've been playing these big, long games. Wargroove, I think I'm like at 30 hours now. Assassin's Creed Origins, I'll never finish that. What could I bring to this podcast for more like bite-sized content to keep things fresh so that I'm not just talking about Bayek and his eagle Senu for the next 4 episodes? I'm going to try to bring a short game that I play to the podcast, one an episode to keep things interesting. And what short narrative-focused game did I bring for episode 10? It is a walking simulator from 2016, one that had a fair amount of hype behind it. Do you have any guesses about what this could be, Heath?
It's not Journey, is it?
No, that's a bit earlier, like 2012.
Oh.
I played
Beginner's
Firewatch
Guide?
for the first time.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so walking sims, I dig them. Sign me up for the Stanley Parable or Gone Home or The Vanishing of Ethan Carter.
There's a lot to like.
I like these kind of games. Like I used the term walking simulator. I think that was like coined as an insult for how they say there's not a lot of gameplay in these games, but I think it's like a term of endearment at this point. It's kind of mainstream. What it is basically a first-person game where you explore an environment, have a story told to you, maybe do some light puzzles or interactivity. Firewatch is a game set in Wyoming. I think it's at Shoshone National Forest, which is close to Yellowstone National Park, if not a part of it. I'm not sure. It's set in like the 1980s. You play as this park ranger who is a volunteer, like forest watcher. His name is Henry. He's kind of a down-to-earth kind of guy. The game opens with like this kind of like a text adventure I was not expecting, where you make some choices to set up like your background, and it tells you how you got here. It's a lot sadder than I thought it was going to be. And you're volunteering as a fire watcher for the summer. Like you hang out in this tower looking for forest fires, and it starts off like super serene. It has this cell shaded low poly look going for it. So it's not like it's not going for photorealism here, but these kind of games, like the visuals probably age better. Like they don't look as dated as quickly. And it starts off like super chill. You're just like,
hey, you kids, stop swimming in our lake.
Yeah, there's annoying teenagers.
I'm going to take your boombox.
Yeah, I took their boombox actually.
Hell yeah.
It's like I have these. You go on these long walks in this like serene nature environment. I might as well have some music to listen to, so I stole their boombox. The main interaction from a story perspective is a woman will talk to you over your walkie-talkie.
Cortana.
That's not her name, but if Henry is Master Chief, she would be analogous to Cortana. It has like the controls are pretty cool, so you use like the triggers to pick your dialogue choice, which leaves your thumbs completely open to like traverse the environment. No combat.
Punch that owl.
So it's completely seamless to like climb a rope or walk around and also respond to dialogue. The game is short, like I mentioned. It's like a 3 to 4 hour journey to see it to completion. It's definitely like the story is the main thrust here. It transitions from these like lazy summer days to tonally it's more of a thriller by the end. And you've got conspiracy theories going on, and you're starting to doubt. You're starting to doubt even your own legitimacy as like an observer.
All right, so let's not get into spoilers, even though this game is old. Is it government? Is it supernatural? Is it existential? Is it simulation-y? Is it... stop me when I nail it.
I'm going to say at different points throughout the game, I suspected it was all of those things.
Oh, good answer. Yeah, you answered it without answering it. Okay, that I'll accepted.
So it's a game that's constantly playing with your expectations. I love a good twist, a good surprise. This game definitely has the narrative oomph to provide you the motivation to see it across its short runtime. Recommend it quite heartily. The summer vibe is like very strong in Firewatch, which is appropriate. It's February, so feeling the summertime sunshine on my face was very welcome for a few hours instead of looking outside my window at the harsh New York winter.
Cute.
And that's everything
I've
played in the past couple weeks, actually.
Cool. Shall we get into the news?
I think
I'll
we
start us
shall.
off with the Battle Royale report, just because I said how I got my first touch of Tetris 99. Obviously, the game that I led you to believe I played was Apex Legends, the Titanfall Boys' Battle Royale game. That game, dude, could you imagine prior
Just to be
its
clear,
launch?
the Titanfall boys are Respawn Entertainment.
Yeah. Could you imagine Epic Games sitting on their golden toilets being like, no one's gonna touch this. We're number one, baby. We got Ninja. We got all of Twitch watching our game. We got the kids doing the dances. Check. Look. Oh man, let's go throw more 1,000 wads of cash down the drain because we got so much money. Epic Games. Oh, what's this? What do you mean another game has eclipsed ours in viewership? What? Apex, for those of you who don't know, is another free battle royale game. It has the cool gameplay that Titanfall did to an extent. There's no grappling, but it's got like zip liney. It's all the quality of life things that Fortnite doesn't have. It doesn't look like a cartoon, so it's got the Call of Duty boys' attention. It's got the people who aren't good enough at the crafting in Fortnite. It's got their attention. It's got just regular like cinematic-y touches. You know how when you drop from the airship every game onto the map, it's got this cool music that swells. I haven't played it. And you land with your team, your squad, and takes on so much more. When you get downed in Apex Legends, there's a lot more you can do rather than just crawl on your hands and knees and wait for your teammate to revive you. But no one would have anticipated it eclipsing Fortnite in just having the number of players. It didn't eclipse it in player base or money because Fortnite's got like 4 billion in the bank. Apex got like 330,000 viewers on Twitch during its opening week, and Fortnite was down to like 120, so like less than half. Or excuse me, like I forget the numbers, but I think like Apex hit double Fortnite's numbers. And you know that Respawn is just laughing at Anthem and EA because was it Titanfall 2 that released? We talked about this like episode 3 or 4. Titanfall 2 came out against Battlefield 1, was it? Or
yes.
what was the release date sandwich of death that it was in?
Yeah, Titanfall 2 was between a rock and a hard place. Like a week before launch, Battlefield 1 hit, and then a week after launch, I think it was Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
Right. So Respawn getting slapped in the face years back by EA with Battlefield 1 is now slapping back with Apex's amazing release and Anthem's slippery. Anthem's not even out yet, and everyone is verifying my BioWare time of death joke. It looks bad. Are you aware of Anthem's load screens? We're talking about Anthem now.
Anthem, I think the release for everyone was just yesterday.
Oh, really?
And yeah, there was what's probably has you confused is there was this like huge chart explaining the release date for if you're like EA Origin subscriber or like gold member, or there were like 3 or 4 release dates for Anthem, but now it's out for everybody.
Well, yeah, it's out the same way like a turd is out of your body when you shit it. The load screens.
Beautiful analogy.
Yeah. The load screens. What are you talking about?
I think there's yes, I heard on PC at least the Anthem load screens could be a minute or more. So
I saw a side by side of
long.
Sonic 06 and Anthem, because Sonic 06 has an egregiously long load time of like 50 seconds when you first open up the world. Kids were already doing gotta go fast with Sonic while Anthem was still loading in this one video. And dude, who is going to put down their controller and be like, this Apex Legends stuff is not for me, I'm gonna go back into Anthem? Like, nobody. BioWare is done. They're so done.
I think this entire situation is fascinating for several different reasons. And as you've already touched on, Apex Legends, huge success. This article I'm looking at right now is citing it had like 2 million concurrent players at its peak.
Here comes the money. Here comes the money.
And this is as of February 11th, so this is like weeks ago. It had already had 25 million registered players. So that number has probably only bloomed more and more. Who knows how many people have played it now. Smash success, this is all the more surprising because that term I used earlier in the show, shadow dropped. It came out of nowhere. Like no 6-month advertising hype cycle for this game. Like word was out like maybe 2 days before it came out.
And then it's there of the games industry.
It's in people's hands. And I have a couple things I want to talk about Apex Legends. The first of which, the way it was released. I have a quote for you. This comes from Respawn lead producer Drew McCoy.
Oh, I think I know this quote.
This is in regards to the way the game was released without the traditional hype cycle, big advertising push by EA, which, by the way, this game, Apex Legends, is being published by EA because
so it's not the biggest slap in the face to Anthem because they couldn't have published it alone, Respawn.
Right. So the Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2 both published by EA. Following the lukewarm response to Titanfall 2, EA took that opportunity to gobble up Respawn Entertainment. They purchased them. Respawn is now a studio owned by EA. They're in the family.
But EA are still the villains.
So this is the first Titanfall product releasing post EA purchase of Respawn. And the lead producer, Drew McCoy, gave this statement in regards to how they chose to release the game. He said, the logic is simple. We're doing a free-to-play game with essentially loot boxes after we were bought by EA, and it's not Titanfall 3. It's the perfect recipe for a marketing plan to go awry. So why have that? Let's just ship the game and let the players play.
What was his name? That's so smart.
His name is Drew McCoy.
Oh, what a guy.
And you're right. This is a brilliant play by, I don't know who to accredit it to, people at Respawn or people at EA, probably people at both. Let's entertain a hypothetical situation that he described here, where this game is being advertised 6 months before it's out.
Oh, yeah. Friggin' like making Will Smith play it. Like, that would have been terrible.
The internet would have torn it to shreds. Oh man, another game hopping on the Battle Royale bandwagon too late. It's going to be dead on arrival.
Everyone knows it's already Fortnite and Tetris 99.
Exactly.
There's no room for 3.
Let's look at another EA game that went through the traditional marketing cycle and didn't have it go so well, Star Wars Battlefront 2. There's a game where throwing in microtransactions had the internet lose its collective mind for months. And this is and for the full context, this is like, yeah, the microtransactions are being put into the game, but we're also giving you like a single player campaign that was not present in 2015 Star Wars Battlefront. So maybe that should foster some goodwill. Didn't really do that though. Here's Apex Legends coming out as a replacement for a proper Titanfall 3 with loot boxes. Sorry, no single player. We took that out. And people are eating it up. They love it. They completely sidestepped getting torn apart here. It's baffling to me.
It's really impressive. Clearly, Mr. McCoy is like an industry veteran and knows exactly what Paul marketing would have done and how the public would have responded. My favorite, going back to Battlefront 2, my favorite memory from that game is, Boogie2988. He's the like long time overweight YouTube guy. His most viewed Twitch clip is him reacting to playing a match, like finishing a match of Battlefront 2, the arcade mode, and he gets a reward screen that says, "Oh, you've met your Space Bucks cap for the day. Come back in like 3 hours." And you can earn more Space Bucks. And his response is so perfect. It's like, oh, we're sorry. Were you enjoying our game? No, you got to stop that. Stop. Oh, you just want to play arcade mode? You don't want to go and do the online component? No, we're not gonna let you earn any more things for the arcade. Sorry, you were enjoying it? Nah, you can't do that forever. And it's so eloquent, his clip. And clearly, Mr. McCoy knows what he's doing with Apex Legends. So not the biggest David and Goliath between Respawn and EA that I was hoping for, but clearly Titanfall 3 is in the meetings. Like, they're talking about it, right? Honestly. I know it was confirmed and canceled.
I think it has been confirmed that whatever Titanfall 3 was going to be was pivoted and evolved into Apex Legends, which me, as a kind of a more traditional Titanfall fan, has me disappointed. Apex Legends, okay, I'm going to say there's some cool innovations in here. It's combined two genres, kind of the battle royale genre with the hero shooter genre of, say, Overwatch, because you've got distinct, I think there are a total of 8 like named characters. You pick one to play as. They have different passive and active abilities.
One of them's a robot.
Right. So they've meshed genres in a way that has not necessarily been done before. They have this ping system in it, which
yeah, dude, that's the best. I'll take it. So have you ever played a multiplayer game with a human being?
Yes, of course.
Okay, that means it could be the best, which is like a seasoned player being like, "Hey, there's a Mozambique in the corner of the blue room," and it's like, "Okay, thanks," and you go and grab the gun, and you're good to go, and it's like, "Hey, we got a bogey on the second floor." Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know it. Open door on your left. Oh, got it. Bang, bang, got it. All right, let's go. That's the best case scenario when you're playing with voice chat multiplayer experience. Cut to, like, babies crying in the background, Xbox Live radio going off, Spanish mothers in the background. The worst voice chat you could imagine. And that's totally a possibility when you're playing these games. But the ping system is so well developed in Apex Legends. It's so like someone's been here. Is just something you can just pop onto your teammate's screen, and even down to like, oh, I need an extended mag Peacemaker clip with reflex whatever. And then your teammate reads it and is like, oh, okay, drop it on the floor. You pick it up. Let's go. Outstanding. Is that what you were going to say? Minus the babies crying in Spanish?
You can contextually highlight things in the environment, which is basically all you need to really communicate with a stranger in this sort of game.
Get that human element out of there. I just want to read, oh, I have a scoped hootie-doo.
So it's brought like legitimately good gameplay innovations to the table, but I can't help but be salty about this entire situation. And it's stripped. It's a Titanfall game without the Titans in it, without the wall running, without the double jumps and the grappling. Titanfall, as far as I'm concerned, is the most fluid and fun traversal system in any first-person shooter, and now we don't have that anymore.
Hey, they'll put a hero in there that's got wall running as their gimmick. They'll put a grapple guy. They'll make a Titan a end game thing. Don't worry.
Maybe, and there's a good chance you'll have to pay for it. So I have this question surrounding Apex Legends. We can dive into it or just kind of answer it and move on. So I think we're both in agreement. If this game had taken the route of advertising itself in the very normal way, it would have been a...
Hey guys, it's me, Kevin Hart. Oh, Apex Legends is the best. Download it and you can play with me. And then, a second launch reveal trailer overview. And then, yeah, the public would have just pooped it out.
Exactly. In the world of video games, it would have been an outrage. And we get these games that are like these games that stir up an outrage a couple times a year. What was the most recent one before this? Probably Fallout 76.
Oh,
you
yes!
Would agree? So,
reset the clock.
And we have our fingers on the pulse of the industry here. these outrages feel like a big deal to us, but seeing how like super successful Apex Legends is, despite like the number of egregious sins video gamers claim to like hate in their games, and Fallout 76, you would think that game is like literal dumpster fire, but
dude, wait.
Okay,
sorry, you keep going.
If I pull up the video game NPDs, the sales chart numbers from November 2018, when Fallout 76 came out, we see that it was the 4th best-selling game in November, with the asterisk that does not even include digital sales. The majority of games these days are purchased digitally, and they didn't even count those. So it did big numbers. It sold millions of copies. For the amount of like vitriol and hatred thrown at these games, it doesn't seem to affect them from a bottom line economic perspective. I suspect one of two things. One, the people who like stir up these controversies and try to demonize these games and business practices, whether or not it's right or wrong, they have to be like a very small vocal minority, right? Because they're obviously not speaking for your general consumer. These games are doing big numbers despite all the negative press. And this negative press, who knows? Maybe it doesn't trickle down to your average Joe. Maybe it only seems like a big deal because it's being amplified. For us, we're in the video game echo chamber. And if it's not a vocal minority of people, I guess if this is like a big number of people who are upset with these things, they must be a whole bunch of hypocrites who buy the games anyway, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to do these big numbers. How do you feel at all about video game outrage and I guess how relevant it is, or lack of relevancy?
I mean, I've been doing a little bit of it. It's like sorry, not sorry. I love talking about how Fallout 76 is just like, recently a player was banned because he had too much ammunition. I don't think he glitched to the game or anything. I think he just had amassed a quantity that the game, the devs suspected was faulty and banned him for it. And the tweet that I saw making fun of the article was like, Fallout 76 bans one player who is having fun. And it's just like, it's so funny to not badmouth these games, but like, the outrage that you're talking about. I mean, yeah, we don't have the world in which Apex was left to the dogs, and the example you cited was Fallout 76, but I don't think like it's undeserving of its outrage. How do I feel about it? There's not really a game that comes to mind that is undeserving of its outrage. We've already talked about Nidhogg 2 and Battlefront 2, and everything is deserved.
I am in agreement. I feel like the outrage, the purpose behind it is to send a message to Bethesda saying, no, you messed up. Please don't do this again. And I feel like the message is not going to land because the outrage does not represent reality. Bethesda made bank on Fallout 76. It's sold millions and millions of copies. It's charting on the top sellers track. Bethesda probably looks at this outcry and goes, well, people are buying it anyway. What incentive do we have to change?
Oh, yeah. So outrage does very little to sway the opinion of those who make decisions. You're saying like, why cry about it when it's not going to do anything?
I'm saying how the outrage will not affect our reality going forward.
I mean, I'm not being outrageous for the purpose of change. It's not me trying to be proactive. It's me just trying to be funny. Like, I mean,
for you, it's more like
that's not
a
true.
Communal bonding thing.
There has to be an instance in which I was I was livid at Hotline Miami, and I think if something were to have changed with respect to that game, if I had said it like during the sequel's development, then I would have totally been disappointed if my outcry was not heeded as legitimate criticism. So, sure, yeah, I wish certain rage was taken as legitimate, but for the most part, it's just for the laughs.
I see. So there's not like an expectation on your end that putting out this message of how these products are disappointing or bad, you're not expecting that to necessarily change things going forward. It's more of a part of the zeitgeist bonding. This is something we can all point at and laugh at. Is that accurate to say?
Yes. I love pointing and laughing, whether it's Detroit Become Human or The Messenger. Now, certainly, I am not the layperson, and I think that the people who fill the comments section do think that their vitriolic comments should be taken as legitimately
gospel.
As like a survey response. Yeah, that's what's up.
Okay, sweet. That's an interesting perspective. I'm glad you were able to share it on the podcast.
Do you disagree?
No, even when a game displeases me, I don't put that message out there whatsoever. I'm in the silent majority, I would say. I guess my only form of communication is I don't buy that game's sequel or I don't buy its DLC. I speak with the wallet, I suppose. So while we were having our 2-week hiatus from the Mobius Tubes, we received what I'll call a deluge of mediocrity. We had tons of games come out, and none of them turned out to be very good. We've touched on Anthem a little bit. That's a surprise, but Far Cry New Dawn, I mean, it's reviewing okay.
Oh my goodness. Did it come out?
Far Cry New Dawn is out.
Dude,
sitting
Donkey
at
made fun of it in his Anthem video. That makes so much sense now. The thumbnail of his most recent video is like Fallout New Dawn, Tom Clancy's Player Unknowns, and it's just like a title abomination. Yeah, I couldn't make sense of it, but he keeps going into jokes about, remember this game? Remember this game? This is the thing that we saw during the Game Awards?
That's right. Announced at the Game Awards, a quick turnaround sequel to Far Cry 5. Post-apocalyptic Far Cry is basically what it is. Of the games I'm about to run through really quickly, it's the least bad of the bunch, I'd say. It's sitting at a 72 on Metacritic. It's just kind of like...
Yikes.
No risks taken, just another cookie-cutter Far Cry game we pumped out in a very short development cycle. Anthem came out. BioWare's first new IP in over a decade.
And their last.
Huge. I mean, I was... When we talked about the death of BioWare last week...
Rest in peace.
I thought your doom and gloom prediction was going to be way off, but wow. After receiving this back-to-back with Mass Effect Andromeda, I'm like legitimately sad.
Yeah.
Like BioWare was among my favorite video game studios on Earth, and now they can't even produce something worth the time to play it.
Well, hey, you have 6 months to say goodbye.
Great. I'll play Mass Effect 2 on repeat to make myself feel better. More on Anthem later. We have Jump Force, this kind of like anime... Oh my
god, I totally forgot about Jump Force.
Anime crossover fighting game.
Yeah, so this is not Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
No, that's a good game. This is sitting at a 58 on Metacritic. It just seems like the lowest effort phone in of a game I've seen in a while. I watched some gameplay earlier today.
I watched some cutscenes.
The eyes are just every model in the games, their eyes look completely dead. Animations are completely missing in some areas. The dialogue is atrocious. I mean, this wasn't a game I was anticipating whatsoever, so it's not like a blow.
Fair.
To me, at least. But just amusing that it came out and they went to the effort to get like dozens of these very high profile anime licenses.
Yeah,
and then they just
like JoJo
failed to capitalize on them whatsoever.
Yikes.
The amount of, I'm sure a lot of licensing logistics went into combining these very big deal franchises together and made absolute garbage with it. And last but certainly not least, this is the most interesting to me at least, Crackdown 3 came out.
Oh yeah, I mentioned this.
That's sitting at a 60 at Metacritic, just like Anthem.
Ooh.
Go ahead, talk to me about Crackdown, Heath.
Oh, do I? I mean, I was just gonna say how I loved Crackdown when I first played it, and I love Terry Crews in general. So it seemed like a slam dunk, but it's not.
And you're speaking to Crackdown 1, right?
Right, yeah. That's got like the 3 boroughs, and spoiler alert, at the end of the game, you find out that you just took out like these criminal organizations so that the Institute could take over or something. You were like a pawn.
Right, I actually watched a Polygon video earlier today. It was like Crackdown 2's twist is better than BioShock's. So I had to see how that could possibly
then
be.
maybe I played Crackdown 2?
Turns out Crackdown 1 and 2 both have a twist.
Thank goodness, okay.
Where, as you said, spoiler, you are kind of the bad guy.
Yeah.
Or you are serving an evil organization without the knowledge of yourself doing so.
Right, you think that you're like some police super soldier the whole time.
Right, and from a gameplay standpoint, it seems like Crackdown 3 is more or less more of the same from Crackdown 1. The problem is the Crackdown 1 was in 2006, and we're now in the year 2019, and we're living in a completely different era of open-world video game design. As you would expect, it makes Crackdown 3 look completely antiquated by comparison. Hence the low review scores. And what's most baffling to me about Crackdown 3, excuse me, I don't think we're getting to 6 at this point.
Nah.
Is that it was announced in June of 2014 and underwent delay after delay after delay.
Hey, congratulations for graduating high school, Chris.
I know.
Can't wait to play Crackdown 3.
Right. So I think it really received at least 3 delays, like long-term ones. And I could not point to a single thing and say, oh yeah, that's why they needed more time in the oven to make this game. They just spit out a game that could have been on the shelf in 2006. What was so difficult about creating Crackdown 3?
Oh, it's so disappointing.
I'm at a loss.
More like back down.
Yeah.
From developing this game.
So that was the sea of mediocrity we had to wade through in terms of game releases while we were away. I never am like, yes, thank goodness, more bad video games.
Oh, but I'm a little bit like that.
Having these games come out and be completely underwhelming is kind of a relief for me because I can cross them off the list and say, well, I guess I don't have to play these anymore.
Now I can play Red Dead.
Yeah, I can focus on my backlog, which will already take me years to complete. Good. So every game I can avoid putting onto my backlog is a victory for me. Okay, maintaining the sad, depressed tone of the podcast so far, I have a new segment for you, Heath.
Okay.
We're playing a game, actually.
Yay!
I need your input. Today's game is called Rank How Badly This Company is Messing Up. Today's category is video game studios Chris used to cherish that start with the letter B. And we have 4 on the table.
Oh, I know 3 of them, yeah.
All right. Which of these game studios that created works of art that are very meaningful to me but have gone down the toilet since that start with the letter B, how would you rank how badly they've been messing up?
Okay.
First option on the table is Blizzard. So, latest news stories about Blizzard that might influence your decision are the atrocious announcement of Diablo Immortal at BlizzCon and the backlash we received from that.
You guys don't have phones?
Game. You guys do not have phones. Is this a out-of-season April Fool's joke? We have that into the fact that they've canceled their Heroes of the Storm game and all of its competitive esports support. They just like unceremoniously shut it down.
Oh, is that their Overwatch clone?
It is their
Or no, they make Overwatch, right?
they make Overwatch. It is their League of Legends Dota clone.
Okay.
And
Pass.
if that was not enough, Activision Blizzard just had their most successful financial year ever.
Congratulations.
And
Let's give
decided-
that one guy like $15 million sweetener.
And they decided to celebrate by laying off 8% of their workforce.
Oops.
Which amounts to about 800 employees. So they didn't do a great job messaging with that move. And the employees laid off. It kind of makes sense with Destiny leaving. They laid off support people working with Destiny because Activision no longer owns. They don't have the Destiny agreement with Bungie anymore. And they also laid off people pertaining to Heroes of the Storm, which makes sense. People who were in more or less unnecessary positions that maybe like support roles that are no longer necessary, that kind of thing. But anyway, it's the main issue though is like the number of people they laid off and the messaging of we had our most successful financial year ever.
Congratulations.
This is how we're gonna react to it. So there's one contender for you.
Come on, Blizzard.
Who's up next on the docket? Bethesda.
Bethesda. Yeah.
Bethesda with Fallout 76 is still like an ongoing. We've talked about it to death on this podcast.
They laid out plans for the rest of 2019. Have you ever seen so much care be given to a vegetable of a game?
I mean, on one hand, I can like kind of respect that they're trying to salvage it.
If Fallout 76 has a 9-month-long rebound and ends this year as a Game of the Year contender, I will eat my shorts.
I don't think you're going to be at risk of having to eat your shorts. Yeah, so Bethesda, awful launch of Fallout 76, and way too early premature announcement of like Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6, which are confusing.
Well, no, you had to give us some. We are just chomping at the bit for Skyrim 2, and maybe that's whatever. StarCraft, what'd you say?
Starfield.
Yeah, Starlight.
IP.
Yeah, I'm excited for it, but Tom Howard could have just kept it under wraps.
So those are Bethesda's blunders. Let's meet our new contestant, BioWare.
BioWare.
Yeah, Anthem, first new IP in over a decade, as I stated earlier. Huge expectations behind that. We haven't seen anything new from them since, I suppose Dragon Age would have been their most recent franchise.
Mass Effect Andromeda.
Well, that's not like a new franchise.
Oh, sorry.
But Anthem, people have been criticizing it as it's a games as a service game that has not learned any of the lessons over the past few years from, say, Destiny or The Division. It's boring to play by yourself. The traversal and shooting might feel okay, but all the progression around it doesn't compel you to keep playing it.
I heard that if you launch the quick play option, you can get matched with players who are at the end of the game. And so,
oh, man.
like these level 2 and level 3 boys will find themselves in a party fighting the final boss, and everyone is like, no, you have to leave, and they're all like, okay, sorry, it's not my fault, quick play doesn't work.
A lackluster story, which, I mean, to be fair, it is tough to tell a cohesive narrative when what you're playing is primarily a multiplayer focused game.
Yeah,
because
dude,
like
have you
you're
seen
in,
like the story mission like prerequisites? It's like, oh, I'm sorry, did you want to play this mission? Oh, you gotta clear this many dungeons and get this many skeleton keys.
right?
It's
yeah.
gross.
I hear at one point they like grind the game's pacing to a halt, and you have to like mandatory search for collectibles or something like that.
I haven't heard that, but I believe it.
And last but not least, we have Bungie, who has had a downward trajectory. The Destiny franchise has been failing to light the world on fire in the same way Halo had. Destiny has been so underwhelming, in fact, that Activision no longer thought it was worthwhile to stay in business with Bungie, so they have cut ties. Bungie is now on its own, which remains to be seen if that will be a good thing or a bad thing for the quality of its games going forward. So those are our 4 contenders, Heath. Blizzard, Bethesda, BioWare, and Bungie. How would you rate them in terms of how egregious the news headlines and the decisions they've been making are?
From least egregious to most, it goes Bungie, Bethesda, BioWare, Blizzard.
Okay, I totally in agreement. Bungie is probably like the least guilty here.
And then next was Bethesda.
Next, you slotted Bethesda. What's your rationale for putting Blizzard as number one?
I mean, this is just talking about like people are gonna have to move because they lost their jobs, and like the video games industry does not have a union. Are you in a union as like a software guy at all?
I am not in a union.
Yeah,
no.
Me neither right now. And unions have always been kind of iffy to me. Just from when like I was working on set, I can't necessarily touch this or that because the people who are hired to do so are protected by the unions. But when you don't have a union, companies can up and like drop you. This is just from like I am not an expert, but because these game developers aren't unionized, it's just like everybody for themselves, and you can get dropped so easily the way Blizzard did. So I think that's more egregious than BioWare just is like stumbling before the finish line of their time as a company.
Got it. For my personal ranking, I like your logic. I would switch the order of Blizzard down to number 2 and BioWare up to number 1, mainly because how much I loved Mass Effect and to a lesser extent Dragon Age. Those games left a lasting impact on me and my life, and it seems like we're never going to get that ever again, and that it's enough heartbreak for me to put it as the worst offender of this list.
Yeah, that's fair. Although you don't know that. We could get spiritual successors. We've already gotten Fortnite 2. No one was expecting that within the next year.
Right. And the launch of Apex Legends, at first I was like, what is EA doing here? Shouldn't they be putting all this focus on Anthem, like putting their marketing push behind that? That seems like a strange time to introduce another shooting competitor into the scene. And I'm almost starting to wonder if they shadow dropped Apex, in part to distract from how mediocre Anthem turned out to be. They might have known in advance.
Entirely possible, yeah.
Okay.
That was fun. I liked that game.
Thanks. Lots and lots of downer news this week. I feel like I say this after every news segment of Mobius Tubes. We're not quite done yet, because now we're transitioning over to a different corner of the video game industry, into lovable Nintendo.
Yes, they had a Nintendo Direct recently.
Yes, before we I want to end on a high note. Let's cover the sadder news first, though. That president of Nintendo America, Reggie, my body is ready, Fils-Aimé, has decided to retire in April of this year.
No.
He'll be leaving on April 15th, so it's not the first. This is not a joke, unfortunately.
You know what is a joke is the guy that they got to replace him.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. What's his name, Chris?
His name is Doug Bowser.
Did you see the image on Twitter of him being like, hey, thanks for the warm welcome? Have you seen it?
Are you referencing the video, the picture with like Mario and Luigi stuffed dolls tied up in the background?
Yeah, they got like a GameCube controller like tying them together like hostages because Mr. Bowser is like, hey, thanks for welcoming me.
Do you think they were like combing over the possible candidates for who could possibly replace Reggie? And they're like, this name is too good not to pass up.
No, I mean, he has. Nintendo would not hire someone for the bit. Like, clearly he knows what he's doing to replace Reggie.
Doug Bowser was the senior vice president of sales and marketing at Nintendo's American division. So he's up there. I like the looks of him, but Reggie is an icon.
Dude, tell me about your experience with Reggie.
Personally, I don't have like a whole lot of history with him, because during the Wii U and like the later days of the Wii, I mainly ignored Nintendo and their lineup of games. But with the Switch, I love seeing him in those Nintendo Directs. He's great.
Do you remember when he did the trailer with Iwata, in which it was the Me Smash trailer, in which
this was
fighting each other in like
Smash
a black
Bros.
background?
Right, yes. Advertising for Smash Bros. For Wii U, introducing the Mii fighter, and they were going at it.
What a cool way to, because there's a lot of video game companies. There's a lot of companies. And how many of them have what was Reggie's title? He's not the CEO or the president.
He was the president
American.
of Nintendo of America.
Yeah. How many freaking execs are willing to do JoJo style? Like Iwata does like a launching headbutt into Reggie at one point, and Reggie like gets sent back and then like strikes a pose where his like knuckles are dragging for like 15 feet. What an outstanding exec. Nintendo has, as a company, has such an identifiable feel, and you can debate how much of it was thanks to Reggie, but it's undeniable. Like it feels like Santa Claus is retiring.
I agree. Like you would never imagine Sony executives releasing anything that was half as much fun as that, right?
Yeah. I can't even put a name to like. Has Phil Fish done anything fun?
Phil Fish is an indie developer who made Fez.
Oh, who am I trying to think of? Who's the Sony exec?
Big wigs at Sony are like Sean Layden, Shuhei Yoshida.
Why did I think of Phil Fish?
Yeah, that's funny.
Come on,
but
Phil.
Yeah,
you got big shoes to fill.
You can never accuse Nintendo of not being a fun company. Sure, once in a while they'll make decisions that are kind of like anti-consumer, like you can't store backups of your Nintendo Switch saves. Nope, you only have one, unless you pay us money to back up on the cloud, or things like that. But they do care about fun. I'll never doubt that.
Like who is the PlayStation guy in all of their ads at one point?
Oh, like the funny kind of ads?
Yeah. Well, he did like the
remember.
PlayStation Move commercials. That's the closest thing I can get to having as much of an impact as Reggie.
He'll be sorely missed. Maybe Doug Bowser will be...
Doug Bowser, I already forgot. It's so funny.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when the new CEO of Sega steps up. Oh, Jim Eggman.
Jim Eggman. Amazing. Okay, yeah. So was that the good news or the bad news? Because
that was the sad news.
Okay.
And if this episode was not already jam-packed with enough video game news, we have more for you. A big heaping dose of a Nintendo Direct, which happened on February 13th.
Doubt you can call it big and heaping when there's no Smash or Pokemon.
This is definitely like the B tier of Nintendo Directs. They did not bring their heavy hitters.
Yeah, it's more like E2.
Yeah.
That's an E3 joke.
They fleshed out their spring and early summer seasons with stuff. Initially, those periods of the year I thought were going to be like this desert, this vacuum of Nintendo stuff, but they fleshed it out with enough that I'm feeling good, and I'm assuming they're going to come with like their S rank games come the fall. But and for the time being, this is going to tide us over. I was thinking we would assign them a letter grade for how good of a direct you thought this was based on the announcements that came out of it.
Sure.
We'll give you the rundown, starting with games that are brand new announcements, never before seen. It started off really strong with the announcement of Super Mario Maker 2 for the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, because there's no...
Are you a Mario Maker guy, Heath?
I'm not, but it's not on the Switch? Like a port of it wasn't?
Right. They did port it to the 3DS from the Wii U, but nothing on the Switch so far.
Oh, so folks who've been playing Mario Maker, they've been on their Wii U's?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
right.
gross. I've seen some Mario Maker's streams recently, and you have to go back to do that. Oh, thank goodness. This was how long has the Switch been out? Since like almost a year,
since
right?
March of 2017.
Oh my God, this is
So
long overdue.
2 years. Yeah, and the first Mario Maker came in 2015, so this is like 4 years before the sequel.
Okay, I mean, obviously, they're not gonna. It's probably just gonna include like some Odyssey stuff, like Cappy, but not necessarily. Or no, did Mario Maker already include Cappy?
I don't think so. They've promised new features, of course, and for a game where like a lot of the content is community created, since the Switch, the install base on the Switch is leagues larger than the Wii U, the amount of like quality content that'll be produced in Mario Maker 2 will probably vastly eclipse Mario Maker 1, don't you think?
Oh yeah, there's no reason to go back at this point. I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is more stats. You know how you could play through the games that have like 5% completion rate, or I think some of the levels were more searchable. You know what? Some quality of life stuff. It'll show you what the level looks like in the top as you load it up. Keep that stuff secret. I don't want to know. I don't want to be able to see like a thumbnail of the last few seconds of the level just when I load it up. You know what I'm talking about?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Because people get really creative with Mario Maker, and it's like spoiler instantly. There's no avoiding it.
Next up, in terms of brand new games
That
getting
gets
announced.
an A.
Okay, I was
But
thinking
overall,
we would
yeah, I know what you mean.
holistically,
Yeah.
but if we want to give them like granular grades, we could do that too.
Nah, redacted.
Okay, next up, in terms of indie darlings, a sequel to Hollow Knight was announced.
What?
Called Hollow Knight Silk Song. It started as what was going to be DLC for Hollow Knight, but expanded in scope, and it's coming this year apparently.
The bugs are back?
Oh yeah. If Hollow Knight is your jam, this looks as good or better. It's going to be right up your alley.
Oh, dude, they did a Pokemon. You know what I mean?
What do you mean by that?
They're going to make you from the first game be the final boss of this game.
Oh.
You know how the final boss
Are we getting into
of, like,
spoiler territory here?
No, not really. I mean, obviously, you get the job done in the first game. You beat the final boss. You know how, like, in the first Pokemon game, you play as Red, and then Red is the final boss of every subsequent Pokemon game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm calling it here.
Very cool. On a slightly less major announcement level, we have a new game called Oninaki, which is significant because it's coming from Square Enix's Tokyo RPG Factory studio that gave us I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere.
Do we like Square Enix?
They are a baffling company.
Hit or
Probably
miss.
like the biggest enigma of the gaming industry, I would call them, because they'll do things like the Final Fantasy VII remake, announce it in 2015, and then it just disappears into the ether forever. Who knows? Maybe it's vaporware at this point. But and then like take forever on like Final Fantasy 15. They're weird, but this is like a very small studio of theirs that just pumps out like RPGs in the sense of like they're going for the 16-bit JRPG kind of thing.
All right.
And Oninaki looks kind of cool. There's some cool colors on display. I haven't played their previous games, but they're on my docket. I'm interested to say the least. Then 2 more left in terms of big brand new announcements that I thought were worth mentioning. They did us dirty during this, Heath.
How so? Nintendo did?
Yeah. The main presenter, Mr. Yoshiaki Koizumi, excuse my pronunciation, he brought up Platinum Games. He said, "You guys excited to hear about Bayonetta 3?
Oh.
They're still working on that." But instead of talking about that game that Platinum Games is developing for us exclusively, let's talk about a different game we've contracted Platinum Games to make for us exclusively called Astral Chain.
Okay.
It's more like character action, high octane combat. You almost look like a police force fighting monsters. and there's two of you, and you're like kind of like bonded together. Maybe that's where the astral chain comes in. It looks anime. It looks interesting. I'm kind of like baffled that they're putting more on Platinum Games' plate. Your work towards Bayonetta 3, that's not going slow enough. Make this too.
That's what you're thinking.
So I'm mainly interested in the fact that Nintendo has fostered this like very solid relationship with Platinum Games, and it goes back to like Wonderful 101 and Bayonetta 2. And what they ended on this direct was a Legend Reborn, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake. Have you seen this, Heath?
No. Oh wait, no. That's the old remake.
Yes, 1993's. I think it was a Game Boy
Is it Zelda 2?
game. It's no, the game is called Link's Awakening.
Okay,
It's
I
a 2D
played
Zelda,
this on the Game Boy on my SP.
Oh, excellent. I have not.
This is the only Zelda game I've played.
Do you hold it in high regard?
No, I never beat it.
If you have not already, you should see. They showed like gameplay and visuals from this remake. It's coming to the Switch later this year, and I really dig the art style. It's almost like it's an overhead perspective, but it looks beautiful.
What? Really?
It's like a 2D remake done right.
Oh, so you say.
It is not 8-bit. It is like 3D models, but it's very distinct, almost like a diorama.
I see what you're talking about. Oh, this looks great. This looks way better than it used to.
Yeah, they've completely rehauled it.
Oh, wait, did I play this? Does it show you what the old one looked like?
It does not, which is interesting.
Oh no, I didn't play this. I don't think.
All right.
Was it Zelda 2 that I played?
Zelda 2 is a very weird one. I know that.
Yes,
it's like a side scroller.
Yeah, that Zelda 2. I thought they were remaking Zelda 2. Wah wah. Anyway, that looks good.
So out of the brand new game announcements as a whole, what letter grade would you assign to them, Heath?
Well, the only thing that keeps them from being like A is the lack of Minecraft and Smash.
I guess before we give the grade, let's dive into significant announcements for games we already knew about. They gave us the announcement of the announcement for news for Smash. They called it Smash 3.0. It's the spring update. They didn't give any details, but said it's coming soon, and they also said Joker will be releasing before the end of April, I believe. So that was our Smash news. In addition, they did a deep dive on Fire Emblem Three Houses. It got a small delay. It's now coming in July, I think, when originally it was targeting spring of 2019. They showed a lot more. Now we know you take on the role of a professor at kind of like a military academy. You're training students. I don't know how I feel about that.
Forgive me.
Hoping for
Fire
more.
Emblem is like Advanced Wars?
Yes.
But fantasy?
It's like that, but fantasy.
Okay.
And a bit more of a turn-based strategy RPG as opposed to a straight-up turn-based strategy game. Because you're like leveling up your named characters and such.
Okay.
That's one of the games I'm really excited for. The whole aesthetic with the school thing is a slight turnoff to me. We'll see how it plays out in practice, though. And they also announced the Yoshi's Crafted World, the Yoshi game that is long awaited coming to the Switch.
I got a soft spot in my heart for Yoshi.
Really?
Heck yeah, dude.
They put out
Yoshi's
a demo.
Island was outstanding.
Yoshi's Crafted World is coming March 29th, and I think there's a demo available now.
Yeah, but these
on
new
the
Yoshi
Switch.
games are made for like babies.
Okay, so maybe below your level of interest.
It's like for kids that are like, man, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, slow down. I need some gameplay that's a little bit easier.
Speaking of Captain Toad, that's getting a free update and paid DLC.
Hell
and 2-player
yeah.
co-op.
Everybody get on Captain Toad. It's a diamond level game.
Really? I that doesn't strike me as like you're up your alley.
I mean, I'm a hardcore gamer, Chris. What's not to like about very small elementary level puzzles that you can just blitz through and feel like a mastermind. It was bought for my friend's sister at the time, and she was like 12, and so she had like motor control problems, so I was just blitzing through it, beating the boss like it's no problem, and just flexing on everybody. I will totally buy this DLC. Treasure Tracker, both as Captain Toad and Toadette. What's not to like?
It's cool to see them providing some post-release support so far after the game originally came out, because it was originally on just the Wii U, and now that they've ported it to the Switch and they continue to support it, that's awfully cool. And those are all the headlines that stood out to me. I guess Dragon Quest XI is also coming to the Switch.
Okay.
Okay, holistically, Heath, what letter grade do you have for Nintendo?
I mean, it's not going to get an A because I still want all the juicy Smash secrets. And then what else from Nintendo do I like? Oh, give me Pokemons, like I said. You know, I wanted something that would like knock me off my seat. But all of this is like pleasant head nodding from me. So it gets like a B+ overall.
Pleasant head nodding summarized my exact feelings of this. And I was also going to go with B+. I thought it was great how they led with and ended with heavy hitters with Super Mario Maker 2 and The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening Remastered. Yeah, and they fleshed out their lineup during these quiet early summer, late spring months. Good on you, Nintendo. You
fleshed out the desert that would have been this spring.
Right. You've populated it with enough oases to keep your fan base alive and hydrated.
Oh, I'm so thirsty, and all I have to drink is this Jump Force and this. What else was there that was bad?
Crackdown.
Oh man, I can't. I'll die before I.
Don't drink that. That's contaminated.
Yeah.
It's seawater.
Wait, what's that in the distance? It's Captain Toad DLC. Rushing to it.
We made it through all the news. And unfortunately, no listener emails today, but that's kind of all right, because I don't have that much left in me. How are you doing, Heath?
I gotta take a shower before I go to work.
All right, very good. In that case, final plugs, please write to us at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at mobiustubespod. That's just POD.
Here's what I hope the Twitter will be. I hope that like people listening will send us like not just questions, because I want most of the questions going to the Gmail. I'm hoping that the Twitter will become a forum for just like photoshops of things we've said and fan art if you're good at art of just like if any of our predictions come true or the things that we're excited about. I would love to see just like the creative stuff, right? Like give us your flow charts, give us your like your rankings of like the things of any other companies that start with a B. Like go nuts. I'm really looking forward to it. That's what I want Mobius Tubes Pod on Twitter to look like.
I would be thrilled if that would become a reality.
Chris, I will take it away because I'm assertive and I wear the pants in this podcast. Thank you for listening. Please do what Chris said and write in. And thank you for sticking with us on our 10th episode of Mobius Tubes. We're hitting the teens.
Does that mean we're about to go through the puberty phase of podcasting?
Oh no, it's going to get real awkward when we start playing like mobile games or I don't know. I don't know what our podcast adolescence. Oh, what if like a guest comes on and then it starts a civil war of like, oh, make that guest the host and make this host the guest. And it's all like, oh, high school drama because it's the teens. I don't know. That's what I thought of.
I'll try to make sure that definitely happens.
No.
Look forward to it.
All right. Bye, everyone.